to go to the court, go. You have a legal responsibility to go.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Excuse me, Hunter. Apparently you're afraid of my words.
Because if he ever gets in again, we'll never have any more elections. There will be no more.
Hunter's stunt yesterday in Congress, what was that all about? Whoopi Goldberg on The View has some thoughts about what would happen if Trump gets elected. Fani Willis, Big Fani, the prosecutor DA in Atlanta, the Atlanta area who's charging Trump with a whole bunch of stuff, is in some big trouble. And also, San Francisco has created and solved world peace. All that coming up on this episode of Daily Caller Live, Joe Bob Live, whatever we're calling this nowadays. Appreciate you sticking around, tuning in on this morning. It is January 11th, the year of our Lord 2023. Thanks for coming in. Yeah, again, this is a fun little setup. We're still, again, trying to figure all this stuff out, so appreciate you sticking with us. But first things first, trying to get to this. Hunter Biden yesterday pulled a stunt at the Capitol. If you missed this episode, we'll play you the full scene as it transpires. But Hunter doing some interesting things, and I think really everyone is just trying to figure out what the heck it is going on in this saga of Donald Trump, in the saga of Joe Biden versus his son, apparently, in terms of trying to get good and bad press. But Hunter Biden went to the Capitol yesterday, sat in the front row of a committee hearing. I think it's the Oversight Committee, now that I'm thinking about it. Probably should have double-checked that, but James Comer was the lead guy there. So Hunter Biden goes to the Congressional Committee room, sits down there after having been subpoenaed and called to testify, and then in the middle of one of the interactions, he just gets up and leaves. Here's kind of how that all played out. You've probably already seen this, but we'll play it here, and then I've got some tidbits that I feel like are interesting that not really a lot of people are talking about this. But anyways, here's Hunter getting up and leaving the congressional hearing that he wasn't supposed to be at in the first place. Watch this.
Gentlemen, time's expired. Chair recognizes Ms. Green from Georgia for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Excuse me, Hunter. Apparently you're afraid of my words.
Whoa! Oh!
I'd like to reclaim my time, Mr. Chairman.
Burst their bubble. Wow, that's too bad.
So he just leaves and walks out the door. Now, here's a couple things that I feel like are kind of obvious, but should be repeated. Hunter Biden was not invited to this particular hearing. He just kind of showed up. And I think the reason he's doing that is, one, attention, but two, he wants the ability to suck as much press away from the dismal poll numbers that his dad is experiencing. And I'll get to more of that in a second. But just to set it up again, the House has been calling Hunter Biden to subpoena. I think behind closed doors, I still can't figure out why they don't want to do it in public. Hunter Biden has said, I want to do it in public, probably because he gets his time split between Republicans and Democrats, and the Republicans are going to actually hit him with some hard questions, whereas Democrats will say, Hunter, being the best person in the world, how do you feel about being constantly attacked? And just, we'll get nonsense questions like that. But from a publicity standpoint, here's the only thing that I could work out. I think, first things first, I do think Joe and Hunter talk about this. There's no way that they don't talk about Hunter's case, how it affects Joe, all this. I don't think there's any possibility that they don't talk. So with that being assumed, you have to ask yourself, okay, why is he doing this? Why is he doing this particular stunt and garnering a bunch of media attention? Well, I think it ties into a lot of what I talked about yesterday. In that, I don't think the Hunter Biden impeachment inquiry thing is a good idea for Republicans. And I understand that a lot of people don't like that take. But I genuinely think that this particular issue is not big enough unless you can find a Joe Biden text message that said, "I did the change of the law. Please make sure they wire the money," which you're not going to find. So unless you find that, I think this particular impeachment isn't going to get the American people on the side of Republicans. And considering Joe Biden's poll numbers are dismal and crashing, considering we have an election coming up, I don't know that this is a big enough issue to actually impeach him on, considering he's already about to lose. Don't give them the opportunity to galvanize around him as he's being, quote unquote, attacked by the Republicans, and allow him to gain a leg that he wouldn't have otherwise. So, that being said, it would play in the president's advantage and therefore Hunter's advantage if Republicans do continue this impeachment process regarding around Hunter. Because I think the more eyeballs to this, a lot of the Democrats in the country already don't think that this is a real thing. And so because a lot of the Democrats don't think this is a real thing, they want more eyeballs on it. Because that helps galvanize their side to the Biden side of the aisle, which again is tanking at the moment. So if you do stunts like this, where Hunter shows up unannounced, sits in the first row of this, and then leaves, garnering a ton of media attention. Clearly, we're talking about it right now. Every cable news channel is talking about it. All of the talk radio shows are talking about it. It's drawing attention to what the Biden camp believes is not a big enough issue to get him out of the Oval Office. Does that make sense? If Republicans decided to impeach Joe Biden on negligence in Afghanistan, incompetence at the border, throwing money back into the American economy that is rampantly increasing inflation and prices, those are all legitimate concerns that rank really high on the totem pole of issues that all Americans think are important. But if you fixate all of the media attention on this Hunter Biden thing, which again, half of America doesn't think is a big deal, that helps you out. Why does Hunter have any interest in doing that? Well, because even though Joe Biden said he's not going to pardon his son, he's totally going to pardon his son. And if he can do it in the first part of his second term as opposed to the end of his first term, I think Hunter benefits, and I think Joe Biden benefits. So I think the reason that Hunter is continuing to bring eyeballs to this ridiculous circus, and again, this is not absolving Joe Biden or Hunter of any of their clear and obvious betrayals of the American people. That's not what I'm saying here. But because half of the country already thinks this is bogus, Hunter wants to bring more attention to it, which is the only reason he would show up unannounced to a congressional hearing and then take all of the cameras out with him as he exited in the middle of that hearing. One thing to note, too, that I think is interesting that I feel like a lot of people aren't necessarily talking about here is how you get those seats. Hunter wasn't on the actual bench, I don't know what you call the table where all of the people actually invited get questioned. He was in the audience part of it. How do you get to be in the audience part of it? I don't know if you know this, but there are professional line waiters that live in D.C. that get paid to wait in line for people who want to be in the audience of that particular congressional hearing or Senate hearing, whatever it is. All of those hearing rooms that have been made famous by an adult film created by a Democrat staffer, all of those hearing rooms are filled with people sitting in the back. How do you get tickets to that? Well, you wait in line. And because D.C. is as, I don't know, organized as a sporting event at this point, you have to wait in line. There's no way Hunter waited in the line. No, they paid somebody else to wait in the line for them to make sure that Hunter secured that seat to be able to perform his stunt, right? This wasn't Hunter Biden saying, well, legitimately, this wasn't Hunter Biden saying, well, I'm here, I would love to be questioned, and oh my gosh, you said something so ridiculous, I'm going to leave. No, the whole thing is planned. And if the whole thing is planned and orchestrated, you have to wonder why. And if you figure out why, you have to wonder who is behind it. Again, I don't really even think that this is any sort of like grand conspiracy. I think this is like relatively obvious when you look at all of the different angles. It had to have been set up, meaning somebody had to wait in line to get those seats for Hunter and his attorneys, which means they planned it days at least in advance, which means they had to have a reason for doing that, which means, well, what is the reason? The reason is because they want to draw eyeballs to something that half of America doesn't think is a real problem. I think it's a real problem. This is no way diminishing how I think Joe Biden and Hunter Biden and the entire Biden crime family acted and peddled Joe Biden's influence. That's not a part of this at all. But it is very political, and I think it's very strategic that Hunter is making media waves and is drawing eyeballs away from actual problems that Americans care about, like the border. Not that we don't care about this, but again, ranking them, Americans care about the border, Americans care about the economy and inflation. And then there's like, I forget what the next one is, but it's like number 3 is so far down in the polling numbers of things that Americans care about that if you can get the entire media to focus on this as opposed to what's going on at the border or how Americans' wallets are feeling, I think you have a big win. And that is why I think Hunter Biden is pulling these sorts of stunts. And I do not think in any way, shape, or form that they are doing it without the coordination with the White House and probably Joe himself. And for all of those reasons, I genuinely don't think that that's that far-fetched of a thing to think. But anyways, that's it on Hunter. We will obviously continue covering this, I guess. But also maybe we won't. Maybe because we all collectively understand what he's doing, I think, maybe we'll just ignore it. We'll ignore it like we ignored entirely the RNC debate. If you will watch the duration of the show, first of all, thank you. There will be zero talk about the Republican debate. I didn't watch it. You didn't watch it. Nobody watched it. Who the F cares? So there's that. I want to move on to this because this is actually really freaking fascinating. Big Fani in big trouble in Fulton County. The DA in Fulton County that has charged Trump and a bunch of other people with a bunch of stuff has a weird scandal going on that I think everybody should be aware of and also could derail the entire thing that they're trying to do. Again, Fani Willis, affectionately known as Big Fani. I can't remember, I think it was Charlie Kirk that started calling her Big Fani, and I just thought that was so funny. Big Fani could derail this entire thing. Why? Not because of like legal not because the American people have decided that this is a political prosecution. No, because of a sex scandal. Blown mind. All right, here's what's going on in wherever the heck this is. Fulton County. Sorry, oh my gosh, what the heck is happening? I'm accidentally calling somebody. Sorry, this is one of those things where like I thought I'd have the article up on the screen, but I don't, so now I'm pulling it up on my phone and trying to pretend that this is not how uncoordinated this is. But anyways, here we go. Big Fani. This is from the New York Post. A top prosecutor leading the elections interference case against Donald Trump in Georgia has allegedly left his estranged wife without any means of financial support while splurging on lavish trips for himself and his boss, Big Fani Willis. Uh-oh. Nathan Wade, who's been married for 26 years, the New York Post goes pretty hard on the relational component. And while I do think that's an important component, you shouldn't cheat on your spouse. Don't do that. But also, they focus way more on this than I think the actual big kicker is. But anyways, who's been married for 26 years and shares 2 adult children with his wife, filed for divorce in Cobb County outside of Atlanta, November 21st, according to court records. The filings in the ongoing court case have been sealed since February of 2022. Why does that matter? The former couple's marriage came under the spotlight on Monday when Michael Roman, a former Trump 2020 campaign official, filed a bombshell motion that claimed Wade and Fulton County District DA Fani Willis, so the prosecutor who's been married for 26 years filing for divorce, and Fani Willis had a relationship and traveled together to vacation destinations including Florida, Napa Valley, the Caribbean. Now, they go on a lot about the ex-wife and alimony payments and all that sort of stuff. But this is the only part that I think that actually matters in revolving around this ex-wife situation. The ex-wife claimed in a motion for expenses filed last month, obtained by the Post, that Wade has left her with next to nothing, despite him having earned $650,000 in legal fees from the Trump case alone in 2022. So this guy's divorce filings have in it what he's making from Fani Willis, his alleged lover, on the Trump case alone. $650,000 just in 2022 on the Trump cases. Well, why is that a problem? Wade has come under fire after being romantically linked to Willis, Big Fani, who brought election interference charges against Trump and 18 other co-defendants, and then hired Wade to prosecute them. I hope you're following here. This is again kind of a big web here, and we'll kind of recap it all at the end here. Michael Roman, who is the Trump co-defendant, argued that in his court case that Willis should be disqualified from the case and the charges against him should be dropped because of her improper, clandestine personal relationship with Wade, the prosecutor. He says this is Michael Roman, Wade and Willis have engaged in a personal relationship both before and after Willis appointed Wade as the special prosecutor in this instance. The claims. Holy cow. So again, just to recap very quickly. The lead prosecutor in the Trump case, fine, that's fine. They have lead prosecutors and the DA is allowed to hire them at taxpayer expense, I guess. That's how that works there, but I'm also pretty sure in most places. But what you can't do is be sleeping with or have a relationship with, especially one that's undisclosed, with the person that you're hiring. And this goes for all government contracts. It doesn't work perfectly, which is why so many people in the DC area and their family members are all rich. But the idea is that if you are a government official and you are in charge of hiring people or giving contracts to other people, you can't just give the contract to your significant other. And so the goal here would then be, okay, wait, Big Fani gave the contract to this Wade guy, which, okay, fair, that's fine that this guy won the contract to prosecute, to be a special prosecutor. He then got paid $650,000 in 2022 of taxpayer money. But what if Big Fani and this Wade guy were sleeping together? What if they had a personal relationship not only before he was appointed the special prosecutor, but also during and after all of this stuff has been going on? And what if we found that out by this guy's divorce records that state, yeah, he was traveling here with her, he was traveling there with her, they clearly had a relationship, and here's how much he made because she made the decision to hire him. Oh my gosh, can you imagine? If all of the charges get dropped because Big Fani and this Wade dude were conspiring to make him a lot of money because they are lovers. Oh my goodness. Let me see if there's any more in this that makes sense to get to. Here's what this Michael Roman motion states too. Willis and Wade were romantically involved prior to Willis awarding the contract for legal services for Wade. It is not entirely clear when their relationship began, but it began while Wade was married. Again, they go into the whole marriage thing, which again I think is terrible. I don't think that's not okay. But the big thing here is, having been a person who's dealt with government contracts, you can't just hire people that you like. You have to hire the best person for the job. And if the best person happens to be, and you can defensively say that this person is the best for the job, and they also happen to be, I don't know, my cousin, that's where it gets sticky. That's where you have all of this sticky nonsense. But this is like on a smaller scale, the whole Hunter Biden thing. Hunter Biden has no tangible skill to be receiving all of this money. No, he got it because his dad is Joe Biden. In the same way, this Wade character got this massive contract. Maybe he's somewhat qualified, but that's not what it looks like. What it looks like is he was shacking up with Big Fani, and Big Fani gave him a contract. This is all alleged, by the way. But if this is what derails the Trump case in Fulton County, oh my goodness, would that be ironic, hysterical, fascinating to no end? I don't know what this would be unbelievable if this ends up being the thing that brings down that particular case against Donald Trump. Fani Willis also was one of the DAs that ran specifically on getting Donald Trump, kind of like that civil case in New York. Letitia James, the Attorney General of New York, ran specifically if you elect me, I will put Donald Trump behind bars. Okay, great unbiased opinion there, elected officials. But anyways. That could be crazy if Big Fani, again, loses this whole thing based on not being able to resist the temptations and the urges of passion. I want to get to this because I feel like this won't be as long as rambly, but because I feel like I need to say this because of all of the information commentary swirling around the defense secretary, Lloyd Austin's whole thing about going into a medical procedure and not telling his boss, anyone in his office, his deputy, that he had complications with it, has been a pretty decent story. And one of the stances that a lot of people that I agree with that run in my circles have taken is, if the administration is willing to lie and cover up all of this surrounding the SecDef, how do you think we would feel, how do you think that makes us feel about the same people covering up and lying about the president and his health? Because Lloyd Austin went in for a health procedure and it went wrong, and fortunately he's doing better and is recovering. But they didn't tell anybody. And a lot of people think that, well, you got to at least tell your boss. And so a lot of the conservative media is out there saying, well, you're hiding this from the American people. And if you're going to do it with Lloyd Austin, who's to say that you won't do it with Joe Biden? Well, here's the hot take. They should do it with Joe Biden. Regardless of what you think about the president and his policies, I dislike the overwhelming majority of the president's policies. Regardless of what you think, you have to keep in mind and you have to remember, my conservative friends, that we still operate on a global playing field. We do have diplomatic and also aggressive relationships with other countries around the world. And so that being said, regardless of how I feel about Joe Biden's domestic policy, his foreign policy. If there were to ever be a situation, or even if it's an ongoing situation, where he is completely incapacitated, let's just say ongoing, in the evening, past 5 p.m., Joe Biden is useless. I could think that, and I could talk about that because I want him to lose the next election. But at the same time, it would be extremely important to Homeland Security that the administration doesn't let that out of the bag. Because at the end of the day, regardless of how much I disagree with Joe Biden's policies, both domestic and foreign, the last thing collectively we all want, Republican, Democrat, independent, moderate, hard right, hard left, the last thing we all want is for our adversaries to get definitive information that Joe Biden, past 5 p.m., past 7 p.m., cannot handle a crisis. Or, in the worst case scenario, an attack. We don't want that information to get out, strictly from a Homeland Security standpoint. And so while I think, legitimately, Joe Biden's brain is addled, I don't think he can handle the job of the presidency now, let alone for another 4 years, I also don't want the administration to leak out all of it. We'll all find out sooner or later, and hopefully we'll learn from our mistakes of putting a houseplant in the White House. But at the end of the day, that should be the decision of the American people. And considering we have bigger interests on the world stage, like keeping our citizens safe, what I don't think the White House should do is detail it in great deal and project that to the rest of the world, giving them the opportunity to capitalize on a weakened U.S. president. I understand that that might be somewhat of a hot take, especially in conservative circles, but I, as an American, not as a conservative American or a right-leaning American, as an American as a whole, there are some things that the administration should keep from us. Specifically being if Joe Biden is so addled that he could not handle or deal with or appoint people to deal with an imminent attack from one of our adversaries. So that's that. Don't need to get a ton into that. This is... All right. I'm going to move on to this because I think this is interesting, and we're going to run long because why not? But in an entire topic change, ladies and gentlemen, peace, finally. And not because Israel and Hamas have worked out their differences or Israel has beaten Hamas into a pulp. Not because of those reasons, but because San Francisco, the city in California, has officially passed a resolution that Israel and Hamas and Hezbollah and the Houthis and Yemen and Saudi Arabia and Iran, the entire Middle East, they have passed a resolution in San Francisco calling for a ceasefire. It wasn't unanimous, but it finally got through. And because of the San Franciscan resolution for peace, I believe that peace will come. Of course, that is all sarcasm. It is absolutely ridiculous that people from cities around the country think that what they think about global politics makes any difference whatsoever. The fact that that's like a thing blows my freaking mind. I do not understand how the city council in San Francisco, or the board of supervisors in San Francisco, I don't know what they call them specifically over there, think that voting on a resolution has any impact on what is going on across the globe. Now, I know why they're doing it. They're doing it for political purposes. They want to pander to their hard left constituents there in San Francisco. But even then, that just goes to show how ridiculous constituents can be sometimes. I do want to play you a clip, though. I didn't watch this whole thing yet, but it looks like a guy in San Francisco who is speaking out against the resolution being passed. Again, because he apparently has to, because of how, I don't know, ridiculous the San Francisco City Council and the constituents are. But because this is on the docket, this dude decided that he should speak up, and pretty compelling words that this guy's got, especially in hostile territory. Watch this.
5 members of my immediate family who used to come visit me in San Francisco were murdered at Kibbutz Be'eri on October 7th. 2 of those family members, these are my first cousins, were taken hostage, Noga and Shiri Weiss, and they were released as part of that second day of the releases of hostages. And I can tell you that this resolution does one thing. It fuels anti-Semitism and hatred, as exemplified in this room right now. Listen, the pig noises and everything else. This is pure anti-Semitism. And I have never, since I moved to San Francisco, seen this kind of hatred against a minority group ever. A public demonstration of hate against a minority group. If you replace a Jew with any other minority, it would be unacceptable. But look at the behavior just in this room. And this is what it's like through the rest of the city. My kids and I do not feel safe in San Francisco. And this resolution simply does advertisement and PR around the world and around in this country, in this city, for that. A lie. And rape is not resistance. Rape is not resistance.
Holy cow. See, I hadn't listened to, I'll let this run. All right, now it's done. And I mean, I don't need to go over how I feel about the whole situation, because I feel like we've done that extensively. But brave dude there, going again into hostile territory there in San Francisco, where a bunch of Looney Tunes, the patients are, what's the adage? The Looney Tunes are running the asylums. That's what's going on in San Francisco, and that guy makes a pretty heartfelt and compelling case as to why what they're doing is not only useless, but it's just stupid and wrong. But also, interestingly enough, 3 San Francisco City Council members or supervisors or whatever voted against it. So there's that, which is also interesting in and of itself. The inmates are running the asylum. Thanks, Keith. Let's see. Oh, now Jody's there. Now everybody's in the okay, fine. I forgot what the verbiage was. Sue me. I appreciate you guys. You guys are always on top of it. Getting to this. This is the last thing we'll get to today. The question I always have with commentators and commentary is, what do they actually believe? Do they believe what they're saying? Or do they just say it because they know it's going to get ratings? The group of people that I have the most questions about constantly is the group of cackling hens. Is not a nice term. So why did I think that? Well, we'll go ahead and use it. The collection of cackling hens on The View. I constantly question, do they believe this? Or are they just darn cynical to where they know that this is going to get ratings? In this particular case, I think Whoopi actually believes what she's saying. And the reason for that is because if she were playing to the crowd would probably react more positively. But when you watch this clip of Whoopi Goldberg talking about what will happen if Donald Trump is elected, I want you to notice something. And this somewhat gives me hope a little bit. The crowd, when she makes her big accusation of Donald Trump and what he will do in the White House, nobody claps, really. And then she goes into a different applause line, something that she knows is more universal, I guess, in the lefty audience there at The View. But the bottom line is, her first big thing, the thing that she thinks is going to stick it to Donald Trump, doesn't work. Watch this.
Do you see yourself, and would you ever consider being the conduit to that third party? Because I don't know if the Republican Party, as we knew it, will survive this. Because if he ever gets in again, we'll never have any more elections. There will be no more. He will stop it. And he's very clear about that. He wants to be dictator for life. Okay? So I wonder, would you ever consider, please, would you please consider being that person? Because I got to tell you, I don't understand how people can say, we're with you, we're with you, we're with you, and then when you need them, they go, oh, but we're with him now. I don't understand that, and I don't understand how you find the grace not to be pissed at folks.
Oh,
I'm not. You know, you're mad at them, but you're not pissed at them, because if you were pissed at them, you would have given up on them, and you haven't.
Well,
and so, would you?
Look, I think that...
I'm begging you. Look, I'm on one knee.
All right, that's that. Did you notice that? Did you notice that? I thought that was fascinating. That Whoopi says, he will be a dictator for life. There will be no more elections if Donald Trump wins. Silent, radio silent. She said, what did she say? In order, she said, because there will be no elections if he wins. Nothing. And I think Whoopi thought, this is an applause line. And then she goes, well, there's nothing. Nobody's clapping. Then she goes, because he will be a dictator for life. He said so. Well, one, no, he didn't. And maybe two, that's why nobody clapped at that either. And they finally clapped and laughed when Whoopi said, please, will you run, please, for me? Which is obviously a joke. Whoopi Goldberg wouldn't vote for Liz Cheney. But holy cow, isn't that fascinating? There's a couple things going on. Does she actually buy this? I think so. I think Whoopi Goldberg actually thinks, one, that Donald Trump apparently is immortal? Like, I don't know if that's like part of what she thinks. Like, he's going to live forever. No, dude, the dude's, what, 78, 79 years old? I forget that specifically. But he's not a spry spring chicken. That dude is very old, too. At most, I think if you were... I try to look at this objectively, too, because in a perfect world, I think probably Donald Trump isn't the candidate for the Republican Party, at least in my perfect world. It'd be easier, I think, to win with most other people on the conservative side of the aisle. That's not to say that I have anything against Donald Trump. I'm just looking at this as a political operative. Like, who's going to be more easily elected in this fall of 2024 on the Republican side? Donald Trump is probably not the easiest person to get through into the White House, which is the only thing I really actually care about, conservative values getting back into the White House. But from that standpoint, if you're looking at it as, well, he's going to do this and that and this and that, I think his only goal here is to be a two-term president. As a person who's, like, not the most thrilled that he's running again. You actually think that he wants to do another however long he lives in the White House? No, it sounds like not that fun of a job. You could not pay me enough money to be the President of the United States. And yeah, there are some ego components in there as to why I think he's actually running. But at the end of the day, to one say that he will be a dictator for life, it's like, I genuinely don't think he would actually want to do that. I think he likes the clout of being president, but actually doing the job, why would you want to do that? I don't know. But I also understand that people are built differently. But to that, then I would say, when she says, we'll never have another election in our life, do you think he's an immortal being? No, dude, he's 80 years old too. He's not going to be around forever. I don't know. I don't think I'm cynical enough to think that somebody could be that cynical as to play so hard to one side that they can't figure out that the audience isn't there. So because of that, I think she's actually serious. Interesting. Some of the comment sections. I'm not used to. I know you probably all.
Okay, if you get a.
Oops. What was that? Oh, that's that. Let me turn that off. I realize you probably all don't care about the inner workings here at the studio, but we're using a new system, so reading comments has been a little bit more difficult. But some people in the comments, like Jody specifically, saying, "Run, please run. We need more comic relief." Karen says, "Whoopi should have stayed an actor. She's terrible as a host." Also, Ryan commenting on the fact that she supports mask mandates but calls Trump a dictator. But yeah, sorry for not getting to as many of the comments as I think we usually do when we're live on here, especially now that we're in, we're in too many different places. Anyways, but appreciate you sticking around, tuning in. If you haven't already, give me a follow on any of your social media accounts. I have not made a new Chiron for that because if you've been watching the show for however long we've been doing this, like 2.5 years now, you know that the Chiron has been wrong the entire time, and I have never changed it. Well, now I just don't have one that shows the little @ symbols down here. So there's that. Let me see. There's no comedy tour date announcements as of yet. I think we're releasing that. We're doing a whole other tour, still touring with Turning Point in March, and a lot of live events coming up, especially during a campaign year for me. So I would love to meet some of you all people in real life, especially that watch every single show, and I really, really appreciate that you do that. Yeah, that'll do it for us today. Appreciate you sticking around, tuning in. We will see you in the tomorrow. Is that feels like a show thing, like I don't know, in the tomorrow. Like it feels like a sign off that somebody actually uses. What movie is that? I don't know. Anyways, see you tomorrow, same time, same place. God bless America.